Hi there, good afternoon. This is Your Stocks. I'm Manglam Malu. With me is Sumaira Abdi. This is a show where we answer all your investment and trading related queries. But before that, a quick look at the markets. Well, nothing really good about the markets if you are a bull, or nothing really good about this afternoon. The Nifty lower by around 120 points. Nearly 400 points shaved off the Sensex, and at any given point in time today, if you sold, you would be making money. So we're consistently making lows of the day, and currently 11,700 for the Nifty looks like it is under threat. Hi, Sumaira.
Hi Mangalam, good afternoon. And it's actually pretty much across the board. So of course the frontline indices have lost 1%. The Nifty is literally on the verge of that 11,700 mark. Sensex is getting close to 39,000. The mid cap index has lost 1%. Pretty much everywhere you look, there's a whole lot of red. So, we have our two experts as well who are joining in, and perhaps we'll take a tech check on the market. But first up, let's take you through our top stories. Market extends morning losses to trade at the day's low, dragged lower by Reliance, Axis Bank, and the entire metal pack. Mid-caps under pressure as well.
Shriram Transport and Piramal Enterprises in focus. cnbc TV 18 news break confirmed as Piramal Enterprises does sell its entire 10% stake in Shriram Transport.
In an exclusive conversation, Yes Bank's Ravneet Gill tells CNBC TV 18 that they're confident of completing their fundraising exercise by the second quarter of this year.
Jet Airways takes a further knock today. CNBC TV 18 learns that the Prime Minister's office has now sought a review on the progress in NCLT. Jet litigation hurts after promoters create a fresh pledge on 35 lakh shares.
And global central bank meetings lined up. The Fed kicks off with their meet tomorrow. Fed funds futures point to an 80% chance of a July rate cut. Bank of Japan and Bank of England also to follow later this week. Well, those are our top stories. There's some news flow coming through on Cadila Health. They have received an EIR, or an Establishment Inspection Report, from the US FDA for their Ahmedabad unit, and they have classified the Ahmedabad unit as voluntary action indicated. Now, normally we'd have Ekta to fill us in on what this means, but for now, the stock is, for the moment at least, is off
From
the lows.
what I remember from Ekta's teachings, I must say that voluntary action indicated is perhaps a positive. The stock is taking a bit of note of that and taking a bit of a recovery from the lows, but such is the market that,
I think this is the first step to getting a clearance for the unit, and that's why this recovery in the stock. So all in all, good news.
Good news, but not reflecting in the price. Such is the market.
But before we get started, let's invite our two experts, Prakash Gaba and Gaurang Shah, join in. Gentlemen, good afternoon to both of you. Prakash, first, just a quick tech check on the market. You see incremental weakness in the last?
Yes, I do see. Because the structure near the highs, somewhere closer to 12,000, is a distribution pattern. And that got broken down somewhere closer to 8,000 plus zone, 8,800, 11,800 plus zones. That itself has a target closer to 11,600 or 11,550 zones. So I think it's weak. We may see down days in the couple of days, possibly try to fill the gap.
All right, possibly try to fill the gap. So the level you're talking about is?
11,400 possible. 500, 600, 600 first, then 500, even 400 is possible as well.
All right, so that's the technical view. Gaurang, Prakash has been talking about levels of 11,600, 400, 500 on the Nifty. That would mean that individual stocks would correct a much sharper bit. Anything on your shopping list after this correction that we've seen in the broader markets? Because from the start of this month, we've not seen any sort of outperformance, in fact, underperformance coming in from the mid-cap end of things.
Thanks, Mangalam, and good afternoon to all of you all. So I very much respect a statement made by my good friend Prakash Gaba, and the fact is that we did try to defend 11,850 a couple of times. And now that we've given off those levels, there is all possibility we may head lower. How much lower? As Prakash indicated, maybe 11,600, 500, or maybe a little bit lower. And the fact, Mangalam, is that next week, I believe you have important events unfolding. And then you will have the F1 expiry. Then we'll be approaching the budget. I think that's just nervousness before all these major events which unfold. But like you mentioned, as far as the shopping list is concerned, well, I think some of the mid-cap ITs are looking, mid-cap IT companies are looking quite interesting. NIT Technologies, one of them. L&T Technologies is the second one. Some of the names in the FMCG mid-cap consumer, if you will, that's Dabur, Marico. Even something like a Godrej consumer products looks quite attractive, and consumer discretionary in form of Blue Star or Voltas should not be ignored, and of course private sector banks frontline.
Okay, let's get started then with the queries. Our first query comes in from Kamal Sharma, who's on the line with us from Rajasthan. Kamal, good afternoon. How can we help you?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Go ahead, Kamal. Good afternoon.
Ma'am, my query on DHFL and Yes Bank. What to do I have holding in DHFL and Yes Bank?
Okay, and you're losing money on both, I'm assuming.
So very much, ma'am.
Okay, well, you're not alone. Gaurang, to come to you on this, DHFL, of course, we saw the default come through. Since then, the company has, made good on their payment. They tell us that they're pretty much confident that, stake sale, etc., will go through, that money will continue to flow in. Then there is Yes Bank. Over here, of course, the fear is regarding their exposure to vulnerable groups. Just today, my colleague Nisha spoke with Ravneet Gill. So while he's not spoken about exactly how much is their exposure to ADAG, but he says they're comfortable. SL has been captured in the sub-investment grade list, so on and so forth. Therefore, for investors who are holding these kind of stocks, who are losing money in them, what should the advice be? Do you just cut your losses, or do you stay on in the hope that, the things are just around, the mend is just around the corner?
So Sumera, hope should be in stocks wherein you have, credible visibility in terms of earnings turnaround, and of course in terms of ownership. And let me say this: I think both these stocks, Yes Bank and DHFL, are widely overowned, and any up move we see in these two counters, they are met with selling pressure. Now, with all due respect, I mean, I was listening into that interview that Nisha did with Mr. Ravneet Gill. Well, let me give a disclosure first, Sumera. We had a coverage on DHFL. We have dropped it because of the various concerns that are in the public domain. And our sense is that if you do want to look at housing finance companies, then there are three names: HDFC Limited, Canfin Homes, and LIC Housing Finance. Or maybe you can shift to either one of them. On Yes Bank, we had a positive coverage, but then post the concerns and more than half a dozen resignation from the board and disappointing numbers, we changed our buy to reduce, that is sell. And our target was somewhere close to about 140 to 160, which is in place since the stock is trading at 116. My first advice is try to protect your capital, because if your capital gets eroded more than 40-50%, recovery becomes even more difficult. Unfortunately, don't have, we have a dropped coverage on DHFL and a reduce on Yes Bank. Maybe you can look at shifting from Yes Bank to a Federal Bank or something like that with a long-term point of view.
All right. One really can't, fault him to getting lured by buying these stocks, because just a year ago, all of them were making record highs, and DHFL, he bought it after it corrected about 20% from record highs at 500 rupees. And Yes Bank, he bought it at 250 2 months ago, which is when we had the news of Ravneet Gill being appointed as the company's CEO. So there are times where, retail investors do get lured by into such price movements. What would your advice be on that? And now that the stock price is corrected, what does he do?
Few things couple of. A, I have lost money in the markets. It was because of the hope that I am here where I am today. But I have a rule. Hope works in the market. It works in life, but does not work in the market. In fact, I have a rule is, the moment I am caught myself hoping the stock getting to get the price back, I exit. Hope does not work. I mean, the stocks chart is weak. D1 Housing Finance, so does Yes Bank. You first get out and then you do what you want to do. Like Gaurang said, Federal Bank or whatever, but first exit. You can't keep on hoping it will go up. In fact, it goes down because people are selling.
All right. So hope, not a data point in the markets, works in life. With that, we have another query coming in. Mr. Shyam Menon calls us from Mumbai with a query. Has investments in Motherson Sumi, Mr. Menon?
Yes.
Go ahead, tell us.
Yeah, I have invested in Motherson Sumi since 2015. Around 450 shares. Not, you are showing it wrong. It is 450 shares, not
okay,
50
it's
shares.
450 shares.
Yeah.
Right, we'll get that
146.
fixed. At 146 rupees. And
I'm a long-term investor. What should I do?
All right, I'm not too sure whether there was any corporate action in Motherson Sumi over the last few years as well, because the stock price currently is pretty close to his buy price, and in the last few years, okay.
Must have been perhaps,
but nevertheless, the stock is still 40% off its record high. For a person who's held it for so long, do you recommend he hold it for longer?
He's bought for 146. So it's okay. It's not much. 120 is trading at 123 now. Yeah, it has seen somewhere closer to 250, 270 zones as well. So from that, if you look at 250, yes, it's come down. But he has seen a cycle of up move and a down move. I think continue holding it. Just have a stop below the levels of 111. If it breaks, exit, don't hesitate. Now, if it goes up, there's likely to find resistance closer to 150. He's a long-term investor. We'll do an SIP. Let Gaurang decide if fundamentals are good.
Okay, in fact, there are some important statements coming from the Reserve Bank governor. Amongst them, the one that's caught my eye is where he says that financial stability is now a key factor for monetary policy. I'm going to assume that he's referring to the recent news items around NBFCs and housing finance companies. Remember that even in the last monetary policy that took place, the governor had assured the market that they are monitoring the situation and would step in only if there was a probability that it could end up being a systemic risk. For now, they had said that they were satisfied with just monitoring the situation as it unfolds. But importantly, now the RBI governor is saying that financial stability is a key factor for monetary policies. I don't know if if there is more than meets the eye,
but because that's exactly what RBI governors do. But there is another line which comes in that they'll focus on growth when inflation is under control. The data points that we've been getting over the last many months, inflation does look like it is under control. The RBI did go ahead and cut the rates this time around. So let's see whether they do that more or not to focus on growth. We will keep an eye out on these statements, try to perhaps get in some more of them as well. But slip into a short break, come back and focus on your stock and investment queries.